Hello, thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you're enjoying. And this video is going to be all about the new House of Faith releases for the Cawdor gangs. I'm going to go through the book first. If you want to see the unboxing and the build of the Redemptionists, go to the 25-minute mark. The first 25 minutes of the video is my first impressions of the book, having a look through, just see what pops into my head. So a bit of a ramble, but I'll also show you my gang. So let's get into this and see what we see in the new House of Faith book. We'll touch on the models and the gang cards as we get through it. So we're in. Important to note, this will be my very first impressions of this book. Not read it in advance, not really seen anything about what's going to be in it. So just some first impressions, what I like the look of from the outside, particularly because this is the gang that last Necromunda campaign I was playing pre-lockdown with a group of us that play it. Cawdor was my focus. Now that's very nice. I suppose this artwork is probably going to be quite divisive really, because some love the redemptionist kind of feel with the flamey hats, some thinks it's silly. I really quite like that, that was quite good. Okay, so the background stories like you get in every single book, telling you about the Redemption Crusade. I'm assuming it's the same characters that were always in it and they've just expanded on the background, which is really good. Ooh, that's very nice. I love the old slam some nails in your head and put some faith paper on there, that's what you do. Crusade, a bit of timeline. Laid out very similar to a lot of the Necromunda books we've seen before, giving you how House Cawdor and the Redemption has advanced through the ages. This house structure piece is interesting. So you've got clan leader of the Cawdor, word keepers, we're interested to see what they are. Moving down into, this is their firebrands, brothers of the faith, midden thieves and bone pickers, all very kind of evocative of where Cawdor are. You know, they are the dregs of society that live really at the bottom. And it says there, many clan houses look down upon House Cawdor, a little elevated above nomadic scavengers of the waste. So really that's what particularly drew me to the gang when I was doing the latest campaign we were in, because I wanted to be, you know, the hide rats kind of thing. So a gang that will appeal to a certain type of player. I particularly enjoy the theme of running lots and lots of gang members, very ill-equipped, that look like this, carry a rat around on a string with them. It's fantastic. Gangs of legends, these are always quite interesting when you want to theme your gang on something that is historical. And there's the gang list, there's the piece there, and I'll show you some of my gang as we're going through. You'll see in the screenshot that I assume I'll put at the start of the video. Quite a large Cawdor gang that expanded up through a campaign we were doing, so I'll show you some of these as we go. Okay, it says you found a gang, skirmish play, same as usual. Composition, the surface the same, one fighter, a leader. Gang fighters got to be equal to or higher than number of fighters, so that looks the same. Obviously we're not going to do in any depth here. Let's look at it. Equipping a fighter, rules, death of a leader, that's all the same as you've seen elsewhere. Alignment, claiming bounties, fairly similar. So our leaders are called word keepers, so I need to change the name. Got a single fight with that. So my leader that I've run in my previous campaign, this chap here, if it'll focus, built standard, absolutely standard. And how I start my gangs off through a campaign is I will build a fairly standard gang, fairly ill-equipped, and I'll build on that gang later and convert some of the characters and things as they gain experience through. So I'll show you how I've done some of that before. So I'm assuming, let's make sure we can equip the leader the same. So word keeper equipment list, basic weapons, palm, yeah, it's the same sort of stuff there. I imagine some extra bits added in, but it looks like the same equipment list that you could do from before. So but obviously trading post and black market you can expand on, I'll talk about in a second. So Redemptor priest leader, and I guess this is how you can have the gang mixed together, because I would imagine you can take a word keeper but then take some redemption ones or stick it in here. So trade group activation, fanatical, yeah, it looks like all the equipment lists. It's quite interesting. I'll open up the new redemptionists in a second and I'll build those and put them at the end of the video as well. So Cawdor Firebrand Champion, so it's a different name. I imagine the next one's going to be the Redemptor one. Yeah, Redemptionist Deacon. So it's giving you the options of building the gang as you go through, so that's quite interesting there. So your champions, they can take the basic weapons, whatever. And these are the guys that we can upgrade to the heavy weapons by the looks of it. Yeah, heavy weapons, crossbow, frag, heavy flamer, heavy stub. Okay, so this is the interesting one I'll show you about what my gang started with. So I've taken multiple champions, always something I recommend when you're building a gang. Always start at least 2 champions and a leader, gives you more options in the trade territory and that kind of thing at the end of the game. So this is the champion I started with. Built fairly typical, crossbow, and then I also bought a second ganger and equipped him just with a gun. So again, the champion, sorry, ad-libbing this one, so it's there. And then what I did through rare trade chart later on after the game, I equipped him like this with a pistol initially. He had a bare left hand, and then when I got enough rare trade points, whatever, I bought the guy a heavy bolter. So I'll try and get some better pictures of this later. And that's the beauty of Necromunda. You can advance, and that's just a Sister of Battle heavy bolter with the iconography taken off and put on to the champion. So that's kind of my ethos of playing Necromunda, especially with Cawdor. Start them off basic, you know, had a champion running around just with a pistol, more for the after game stuff and some of the basic gangers of what were doing the job. So quite interesting. Some armour here, Gutter Forge Cloak, well I'll check out what that is later. Scrap Shields, that's quite interesting. So some different equipment, it looks like they've dropped in there on these compared to what your champions for your Redemptionists can have. So that's quite an interesting way. So you get to gear them up because he's got flak, incombustible hauberk, mesh armour, the armour here, cloak and scrap shield. So I quite like that. You can obviously go down a couple of different ways with these, or stick entirely Cawdor as our Redemptionist. Quite interesting. Now on to the brethren, the gangers. So I suppose I'll just flick through a few gangers that I've built. Now for me, the absolute killer things in the Cawdor is your blunderbusses. So I ended up building just 3. So not a massive chunk of the gang, but 3 of these guys that form most games my kind of leader's little entourage used to run around with him. So and it looks like we can still equip them there. Polar mortar gun, blunderbuss with grape shot and purgation, and a personal favourite. You know, any rounds that you can take that are going to set people on fire, absolutely beautiful. I'm assuming they stay the same. We'll check that out later. And then the rest of the gangers, I do a mix. So I've built multiple guys, auto guns, but then I've built a little combat wing. So we have 4 here. Now actually I started these off as Juves before they were gangers. So some have turned to gangers, some are still Juves because of the territories I had, that kind of thing. And here's just an interesting conversion I did. This was to a guy that halfway through the gang campaign ended up getting injured, some arm injury. So I ended up actually checking in the blunderbuss off and just kind of strapping it onto his hand as though, you know, he's basically lost his hand but still in some fashion carries a gun round. So the customability of Necromunda is really a beautiful thing to behold if you're willing to hack your models up and carry it around. And this last couple of guys with autoguns, so that's principally the gang. So Redemptionist brethren, the gangers. So obviously they've got their special weapons here. Shotgun with Exterminator. Okay, that's interesting. With Exterminator, and always interesting, you can't drop these onto your Cawdor. So this is the point of difference of Redemptionists, and I've not played Redemptionists for 15 years or so, but that was what made them absolutely fantastic. Running around, yeah, you've got an autogun, but you've also got flamers underneath. Now, be interested if these are single shot, because they always, you know, they weren't these reliable things that you could fire right the way through the game. Bone pickers, here we are onto the Juves. Fairly typical Juve rules. You can promote them through to specialists or whatever. Fast learners, yeah, okay. And you got massive. That's interesting. End of the choose crew step, the pre-battle sequence. D3 different Jews have this rule may be added to the starting crew. Very interesting. That could, yeah, as it says there, increase the size of the starting scenario beyond that given by the scenario. So that could be very useful if you're doing the kind of horde style gang of Cawdor, because that is one of the drawbacks of taking a very basic gang with not a lot of equipment to start with. Certain scenarios drop you down to not be able to take many people. You end up as a disadvantage when you face a gang that, you know, has gone for heavy equipment. So Zealot, that's your the version of the Jews. That's interesting. So Redemptionist version. Can't start taking run of flamers, but close combat weapon. Eviscerators, that could be very exciting, and I think the model in the box has got one of those, and we'll talk about that later. Now, here's something that is later on in your campaign that you'll end up getting. You can potentially get exotic beasts to add in to your gang. That's something that I managed to actually get, and quickly when I did get them, knocked them together out of Sister of Battle. So little Sister of Battle shrine, the bird that obviously comes on the, not faith paper. Read too much Dan Abbott lately, but taken one bird off that, put it on there, and a second one flying. So that's what I use to represent my sheen birds for my Cawdor leader. So that's quite an interesting one, just another reflection of, you know, how Cawdor really do scavenge and take these battered and trashed old mechanical creatures and use them and take them as a piece of things. They are quite good in game, actually. They're quite useful. I mean, they're not, you know, over tough or anything like that, but it's just another interesting piece you can add into, you know, specialise your gang. So, Cherub Servitor, exotic beast. I haven't done a servitor because that wasn't something that was obviously linked directly to them. Let's see what we can take here. Oh, Clovis, he's back. Now, he was always an interesting character. From the background books, if you've read the Cal Jericho books and those kind of things, was always a really interesting antagonist against that. Special, right? So this is not a credit one. So joins the gang for free. That's quite interesting. So this could be a really interesting add-on to a starting gang that could particularly from there. Deacon Malikev, yep, again, very interesting character. Looks like he obviously comes with the Redeemer, so that's interesting. Imagine he's going to be Forge World models. Obviously not seeing them or pick them up. So hangers on and brutes. Now, not something I paid for in gang when I was doing my Cawdor one, but can be very useful, especially for certain territories if you get them. Fighting Pit's one that I ended up taking off one of the guys I was playing in the gang. Ended up getting free hangers on that you can get. So Hive Preacher, that's interesting. Cawdor only, that's a new character. That's very interesting. That could make some real interesting conversion opportunities there, so that's really good. Flagellator, excellent. Purification through pain is a common belief for the redemption. That could be fantastic. If there could be some either brilliant conversion opportunities, or we'll see what models they come out. Again, I would imagine that's going to be a Forge World one, so I like that. Some very specific hangers on. That's good. It's what they've given a lot of the gangs. Rogue Doc, we've seen that in obviously other gangs. You can have it in any of them. So really nice model that I've not got around to getting yet actually for this. Might have to do that. Gang Lookout and Dome Runner, they're exactly the same. Ammo Jacks, Sloppers. Oh, I do love the Slopper model. Looks fab. I've not painted mine yet, so when it's done I might have to stick it on the channel, so keep an eye out for that. Oh, and here we go. This is something that I saw the initial pictures for this in the House Gang book, so we've seen this already. The Stig Shambler, same sort of rule range, very kind of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Looking forward to getting my hands on one of those and getting them painted up, and that'll be really good. And then we come down to Excavation Automatas, not very useful. Really good model to actually pick up, and I've got some ambots purely because you can bounce it between the gangs. Now I've done one very battered and trashed, so it looks like it fixes in with Cawdor, but that's stuck in the shed at the moment, so I don't know quite where it is. But you can theme it to a gang, or you can just get one and bounce it between your gangs. So it's probably a really good pickup if you don't over convert it. Really good for getting it stuck in the others. And the same thing with the the Ogryns. If you keep them fairly generic, you can bounce these between gangs. It is quite a big investment in credits, but once you've played a few games, you've had some success. It's quite good to get in. Now, obviously, this is a piece of artwork we've seen before. Now, I really love this. Cottle Scrutter, the Hanged House Cawdor. It's just absolutely evocative of what House Cawdor is all about. Ragged, trashed. Really, really nice artwork in there. Right, Hired Guns. Imagine this is going to be the same sort of character we've seen before. Hive Scum, yeah, it can be useful. Again, Forge will do some very nice models, or you can convert your own. Bounty Hunters. This doesn't appear to be any different to what we've seen for Bounty Hunters already. Can be very useful in certain games. I have used House Scum and things before. And here we go. The Headsman. So, already existing in model format. Very nice. Doesn't look to be a rule change at all. Conic Figure, Bounty Hunter, no. Really nice model. Really thing to add in. But again, a very expensive credit investment for you if you want to do it. Rattus Tatterskin, Hive Scum. So again, 90 credits used for a gang. They can be very useful. It seems like a big investment, but this can be your bullet shield. That person doesn't matter if you throw them in and they die. But really nice picture, really nice artwork. Nice little rule sheet in there as well. Now, alliances, not something I've really dug into in the campaigns that we've done so far, but can be something you can get some benefits from. And here we obviously allies Corpse Guild. Now, the Corpse Farm, I think it's called a Corpse Farm from the campaign but before, a brilliant piece of territory. Characters die in game, which happens more often than you'd think. The amount of credits you can generate from that piece of territory is fantastic. So I imagine actually the Corpse Guild will give you those battles there. So corpse harvesting party. While you're allied with the corpse guild, the pre-battle sequence, the gang can attempt to add a guild representative. So, okay, corpse harvesting party. That sounds interesting. Roll d6 and add the reputation. So you roll and see what you do. That's fine. So you get a corpse harvesting party. That could be quite interesting, depending whether they release models or you can do it. So that's very interesting. Ooh, that's meat for the grinder. Start of post-battle actions. Oh dear, right, so you take off an injured fighter and they basically go and corpsify him and take him away. So that's I like that, actually, the advantages and disadvantages of having that. But you get some extra corpse starch rations, so it's interesting. Okay, some criminal allies you can have. Some armourers, very well. So I think there's going to be a lot for me to dig into really here and start learning, you know, what is particularly going on. And that gives you information of the noble house that they are tied to. So House Cawdor, interesting. Takes you through the noble intrigues, benefits, drawbacks like you've seen in the other books. So I'm not going to try and guess what that is, because skim reading it I'm going to get lots of things wrong, I'm sure. Corpse harvesting party, here we go, this is what's interesting. So you add this, as we've seen before, if you manage to petition them. Relatively fairly standard stat line. But yeah, after the wrap-up phase, decent actions on the battle and suffered a critical injury. And yeah, and they take him away, give him the memorable death, and they claim it by the guild. That's interesting. But weapons and war gear, including the armour they were equipped with, is granted to the gang corpse harvesting party 4-4. Now that's quite interesting, because the territory piece that gives you the ability to harvest corpses just gives you the credits, equipment just disappears. So do you know what, if you manage to pop an enemy gang leader and get his equipment, that could be game changing for a campaign. So that's quite an interesting thing to try. Not counted, you want to choose crew step, the pre-battle sequence. That's interesting. Again, you can end up with a larger gang, so something you might want to think about as you go in. So now, clearly, I'm not going to be able to go through all these rules. I don't want this to be hours and hours long, but quite a lot of interesting add-on rules in here. Work factory gangs, House Cawdor, Ministorum delegation, and really this depends how far you want to take your campaign, doesn't it? Now I have the additional rule section. So again, giving into the favours, subplots. Now these can be very interesting to use through a game, just to add a bit of spice if you've got a campaign that's gone on for a while. Because things in Necromunda, if you play the same people fairly regularly, there's a group of 5-6 of us that join the campaign we're in, you know, adding these things in really can take the campaign in different directions if that's what you want to be getting into. Faith dice. Oh, that's going to be interesting. Articles of Faith. A little bit Sister of Battle there. Path of the Faithful. So lots and lots of very characterful background. What's this? Article of Faith effect. And lo, I did spread my wings, and the God Emperor carried me aloft. Fighter made 3d6 of their movement, attempting to leap a gap. Tempted to jump down. I could imagine this could go horribly wrong. So that's okay. It's very interesting to read through. So I've got lots of character in here. Path of the Doomed, Path of the Redeemer. Campaign note: forge your own path. So lots to get into in this book, which we won't necessarily go through. Cawdor terrain. So you've got some gang terrain placed in the battlefield before fighters deployed. So again, very interesting. How we can add terrain into the game and the credits you pay for. We've seen this before in the gangs. Then some Cawdor specific scenarios. So we have Righteous Crusade. Gang brings the fire of the redemption to the Underhive. Standard battlefield setup. Attacker and defender. Gives you the crew rules. What's this one there? So battlefield. Bit of deployment. A couple of gang tactic cards, which we'll talk through in a second. Credit, yeah, usual. I'm not going to necessarily trawl through. No, I don't want that. So, Righteous Crusade, the Cawdor scenario. It's on a battlefield setup. Attack and defender, nothing different in how they lay these things out. You get to pick your gang tactics cards. Cleansing the Underhive. So the attacker is attempting to cleanse the area of the Underhive and drive out the faithless. All about driving out the faithless with fire, I would imagine. Claiming quarters. Once 3 quarters have been claimed by the attacker may claim the 4th quarter, even if enemy fighters within its boundaries. Okay. So some different scenario rules and stuff in there. Test of Faith. I do like how they've named the battles. Definitely an interesting one. Again, not going to read through these, but it's good to have those as options. So then they give you their version of painted gangers and how they've got into this. And actually, when we're at this point, I'm going to show you the last model, a couple of ones I haven't shown. So this was my sniper that I'd upgraded a Model 2 that hadn't quite built yet, and there. So again, a couple of different character conversions. And the last model that was in my previous Cawdor gang was a Caryatid that I converted. Again, Sisters of Battle, painted in blue. And I haven't spotted the Caryatids in here, but I'm assuming when you go to the rare trade chart, you can still get them for Cawdor, because you still lose those rare trades, which should be good. And lots of lovely gang artwork at the back of there. Look, and I really like that they put these in books, give you a couple of different alternate colours that you could use, and then the weaponry list. So again, Eviscerator, I mentioned that one, really nice. Lovely that they're taking a different, slightly different tone, so they're not as ragged as the Cawdor weaponry, but they're definitely not your crisp, clean technology that you see in other gangs. Weapon references, right, so let's have a look. Exterminator, here we go, this is what we're after. So template weapon we've seen, yeah, flame, blaze, single shot, template. Okay, so assuming they haven't changed the rules for any of the single shot stuff, you know, you've not played a game for a while, you don't want to absolutely guarantee that. Single shot, yeah, once per battle. So, you know, as a points crossover, that was the point of difference for Cawdor to a lot of others, is that they've all carried with these, but that could still be crazily effective if every model has got a single shot flamer on there. Flame weapons can be absolutely devastating, especially because you set them on fire afterwards with the blaze rule. They run around panicking or run off the edges of buildings, whatever, if you're playing on the built up terrain, or very interesting. And then all your full weapons listing. The other one's Eviscerator, that's the another interesting one. We're going to see what that does. Eviscerator, so melee and range, yeah. Sever, shred, unwieldy, versatile blade, yeah, and then you've got the arranged. Oh, that's interesting. So what you would say is the exterminator on the bottom of the Eviscerator isn't actually a single shot one. So that could be devastating, but if I remember right, back here it was like 80, 90 points, so fairly expensive. But do you know what? That could be exceptionally useful. So let's go back and have a look. What was that? And that was on your Zealots, wasn't it? No, it was on the Juve versions, wasn't it? Yeah, 90 credits. Oof, expensive, but you know what? That could be fantastic. Right, back to it. Last couple of pages, and then we'll get some unboxing of things there. So, here's what scrap shields. Shields from bits of barricades. Suits of armour strapped to an arm mounted over a shoulder. It can be equipped with scrap shield in addition to a suit of armour. That could be really cool. I like the idea of doing some of those conversions. That's what's interesting already. Even though I've got a full gang, I'm considering now putting some conversions on, and I think that's the point of having new books. That's good. Gang tactics. Excellent. So if you're going to randomly roll your tactics cards, whatever, you've got the rules in there, but I've got the tactics cards, which we'll unbox in a second. So that is a, well, relatively quick, I wouldn't say over quick, because I can never do anything too fast, version of the book. So now we'll move on to the tactics cards and we'll unbox the Redemptionists. Okay, so let's get into the gang tactics cards. So fairly standard. We get a load of blank gang cards. Now I do like these because you get, like on all the other ones for all the other gangs, you can see that there, you get like a little watermark of the gang that you're actually doing it to. I like that. It's just a nice little add-on. They never give you enough, because you know, you buy a Cawdor gang, you get 10, you get what, 3, 6, 8, same as usual, 8 cards. But look, it's something nice, and if you've bought the main box set, you'll have some blank ones anyway knocking around, I'm sure. So and here's all the gang tactics. I won't go through all these, but I think definitely worth picking up your tactics cards, because it saves having a book knocking around. You know, you can just take the ones you're using, you won't forget what you've rolled, sort of less housekeeping to take. And actually these do look different to the tactics cards we've seen already from the set that came originally. So yeah, interesting, always a nice thing to have. What more can you say about that? Okay, now on to the main event, I suppose, unboxing the actual toys that came out this weekend. Half trash the box while we're doing this, I'm sure. Okay, so we get usual instructions, which I am sure, typical Games Workshop fashion, they'll have some mistakes in the numbering or something. That seems to be their latest thing, but if if you've got a Vega modelling sense, you'll be absolutely fine. Okay. And obviously it gives you instructions of building the 6 of them in a specific way. Now I will do that when I build these 6, because again I tend to like to start off, and as the campaign goes through I will alter and change, which does mean you end up with a rather large gang occasionally, but you know, or spare models you're not going to use. 10 bases, that just must be how they pick them. Very strange. 10 bases, 6 models. I don't use these, as you've probably seen if you've watched my other videos about my, you know, the Escher and the Deluxe and the other ones that I've done. I do my own custom bases because I want them to match the terrain that I'm doing, but you know, bases are bases. And then 2 identical sprues, so no point having both in shot. So if you can see what you've got there, so it does mean 2 identical sprues means you are going to have the same body twice, which does limit, I suppose, what they're going to visually look like. However, put different weapons on them, some different poses, you can make them different enough to stand out, but it does restrict you if you're going to start doing, you know, a 15 strong gang or whatever, and you particularly want to focus at redemptionists. So I think that's a little bit of a drawback with this set. The other thing I would say, comparing this set to the other expansion sets that, you know, I've picked up, so I've got the Goliath and the Cawdor ones and the Escher that's come out so far, it doesn't seem as good value for money, if I'm perfectly honest. Yeah, they're lovely models, and I absolutely love that Eviscerator model. I'm sure it's going to be great when it's built up. The Fire Pike, I think it's called there. And look, they're lovely, and the sword, yeah, fantastic, I get that, but they're just not as big. You know, the weight of plastic you got in those other sets definitely seems better value. And unless I'm remembering incorrectly, I'm fairly sure that these are the same or higher priced. So I don't know, I like the models and I'm going to love them when I'm done, but I suppose bear that one in mind. This doesn't feel like an amazing value set, but we'll build them up and we'll see, and the models will be absolutely glorious, I'm sure. And my opinion on value is always the same. Look, if you want to spend your money, it's your money, spend your money. And the value, there is no value in plastic soldiers, you know, at all. You know, they're not worth it, of course they're not, but it's our hobby, it's worth it because we love it. And that's kind of the point. But what kind of gets me sometimes is when you see a direct comparison of one set of upgrades for a gang versus another gang set of upgrades. They cost the same, but this gets a lot less plastic in it. That's when I start thinking, why? They could have done more interesting things with this gang set, I think. They definitely could have put some more interesting stuff. You've got 6 basic humans. You know, where's the other bits that they've referenced? So, yeah. But no, look, nice. Let's build them up. And let's see what they look like when they're built. So the gang is built with exactly as shown in the instructions, sort of standard gang, because again, first models I've done for them. If you're going to convert, I would convert after this. There's a leader, chain axe with the exterminator round. Assuming you could use this as the cult icon, or even the book as a cult icon, you can probably swing using that as a fire pike. Very nice little model. Going to be quite fiddly to paint the flesh and things you get in there, but you know, dig out the small brush. And his fiery hat is a very nice model. Could be used for a number of things actually in 40k if you want to use those across, and this gang would be absolutely ideal for converting into, you know, your sisters and those kind of things. So we've now got the Zealot. This is your Juve equivalent for the gang. Do you know what? I think this is the nicest model. Very dynamic. You know, it looks like it's in the process of moving and about to slice someone's head off. The Eviscerator is lovely. Flame on the back, which is a multi-use flamer on there. So although this is a 90-point piece of kit, I think once you get this guy to advance a couple of pieces, he could be a linchpin of your gang and a particularly scary opponent. So again, lovely model. Deacon with his fire pike. Now this is a 140-point model, because I've read the rules a little bit now. It's not a standard flamer. Standard flamer rule description, extra point of armor piercing, and it gets the rending rule. So if you roll a 6 to wound, it's an additional wound. So it is pricier, but you know what? Looks gorgeous, and a little bit of a point of difference for your flamers to others. So that's the Deacon there. And then we get the 3 different brethren. So these are using the exact same poses that we've just seen, but the way they've put the pieces and the weaponry on them, they do look different. You know, although this is the same pose, it does give a little bit of a point of difference how they've put the equipment on. So I did test the spare arms. So I tested the arms of the Zealot onto the other bodies, and you can make them fit. They are socketed and things, so it is going to be slightly awkward to do that. But you know, once you've built your first 6, if you want to expand your gang, you could do that and put different weapons on different arms with a little bit of cutting and filing, and that will be fine. I still think there should have been more than 6 in this box, because again, although they're lovely models, it feels like it's a standard gang. They don't feel like an expansion to a current gang like a lot of the other gang boxes did, where you're adding something different. These are adding basic models. It feels like a gang launch. So why not use 10? Just my feelings. Other thing to note, you've probably seen them there, I've been doing it, quite a lot of gaps when you put models together, so I just used a bit of liquid green stuff to fill those gaps in, something I definitely recommend, because where the two parts push together, you are going to leave a little bit of a crack, so either put some extra glue on to seal those in, or as I've done, just a little bit of liquid green stuff, which I'll then file down. But I suppose overall, they are lovely models. You do get a fair bit of spares with it, so again, you could do some gang conversions. You could use the spare parts onto Cawdor models and you know, meld the gang together. So certainly very nice. So speaking of spare parts, well, it's worth talking to the spares crew. So 6 models. With every model, you're going to end up with an alternate headpiece, either front and back, or just the back on some cases, set of arms and a set of weapons. So you do get a fair bit of spares. Now, I did test fit them all on. So, for example, the Eviscerator arm. Now, what's interesting is how they do the socketing on the backs of these arms varies on each different model. So, particularly noticeable when you come to the pistol arms and things, the section that you would put on looks very different on one model to the other, as you kind of would expect. And the cowling that you have, so this top pieces that go over, do mean those arms are different. So you will have to file some down, cut some down to get them in, but it's easily doable just with a hobby knife and whatever. So a useful chunk of spares that you're going to get with that. And actually, I know my point about it feels like it should have been a 10 strong gang. If you buy a Cawdor box at the same time and you're building a gang at the same time, you could easily take a lot of these pieces, put them onto the Cawdor, intersperse the pieces together, and it would blend the gang together a little bit more. So definitely some options. Or the obvious thing as well, you could take these and put them onto your Imperial Guardsmen, for example, to turn them into Fraterist Militia if you want to kind of do that kind of element, maybe add it into your sisters, that kind of thing. So definitely a lot of scope for doing things with this kit. So I thought we'd finish the video off with a bit of a group shot of the gang there. Thank you for those of you that made it all the way to the end. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of my ramblings that have gone through. If you're interested in seeing how I paint my Redemptionist gang, that'll be coming up on my channel soon. And in the background here, you can see some scenery that I just thought I'd do a nice backdrop with. Again, this is the TT Combat scenery that I've been working on, if you've been following my Instagram. And I will be dropping a video fairly soon about how I've done that and how I've converted it and gone about. So, hope you've enjoyed it. Hope I'll see you again soon.